the reason I wanted to focus on the 2 clinic-based today, because that was the great majority of the children, and I felt like that was the greatest hurdle we had to get over, that we all had to either throw tomatoes and rocks at me and say that's the dumbest idea ever, or yeah, maybe we can get there, before we can go on and talk about other parts of the continuum, which you pointed out, many of which are very good. And I think if we make it easier for our providers of clinic-based and non-clinic-based services to provide those services, and I'll give you the same line I used with the adults and the school-age kids, if we can quit making y'all count stuff and doing paperwork so much, you'll have time to be innovative. Right now, we discourage you to be innovative. You've got to do exactly what the manual says, and you've got to document it, and then you got to document that you documented it right. I went up to a CHMS the other day, and they had a whole room full of places for the therapists, who are the most highly paid people in the place, probably, to sit and document stuff. So we got some of the most highly trained people in Arkansas and some of the hardest people to find being paid the most to have to sit in a room to satisfy Medicaid and DDS and DHS and Blue Cross. Let's see if we can get them spending some of that time helping children learn how to walk and talk. And we'll figure out a way to go out there and monitor them without having to fill out all that. That was just awful. It's an awful thing for a very expensive, a very well-trained resource to be in a room by themselves filling out papers. I think if we can get away from that, we'll get a lot more innovation. And part of what we haven't really talked about today, but we're going to have to in the future, is about making that continuum of care work better, to where it's not such a huge leap to go from clinic-based to non-clinic-based. And I think we've made some good strides with that with the adults. I think we can do it with the preschoolers too. But I appreciate you bringing it up. Let me get to the now what page. I think I've already touched on this. We got to work on the clinical model, and we'll get a lot of that work done in between times with feedback and meetings, provider groups, parent groups. This is how we did with the adults and with the school-age kids. If you want to meet with me, I'll meet with you, and we'll get work done. We obviously can't all 75 or 100 of us sit in a room and hash it out once a week, because it just won't work. But we can have a lot of these meetings, and we can move forward. As cumbersome and as awkward as it seems, I still think it's better to have everybody in the room that wants to be in the room. And then as we come together again next time, we're going to set up time, start talking about this continuum and people who are non-traditional, and talking about some of the outlier kids. We got outliers on both ends. We got some kids who really don't, while they might not qualify for DDTCS or CHMS, still need a little help. And then we got some that really need a lot of help. They need one of our children's services nurses and the best P4 teacher you've got and your nurse. So we got to deal with those people too. And there's probably a whole lot of other stuff I hadn't thought about. I got my email address there. I've got my phone number. I need to hear from you as we move forward.